record to this computer.
Yeah, it's live.
It's live. Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Bong, and welcome to episode 3 of the Hoopslocale podcast. The Miami Heat with the impeccable, what do you call that? Discipline, hustle, and what we call the 40-point triple double from Jimmy Butler. They actually made the series more interesting by notching that win and closing the gap a little bit with a 1-2 deficit behind the Lakers. So, joining me today, as usual, are my friends that love basketball as much as I do. And I'll start with Val from Dublin, Ireland. How are you doing, Val?
No, I'm on the other side of Ireland, but I'm in the northern part.
You are?
Hi.
Okay. I don't want you to get killed over there by your neighbors.
Yeah, I know. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. Hope you enjoy whatever we'll be talking about today. Yeah, the reason why we're here because B-Bird jinxed it.
I kind of predicted it.
Yeah, I know.
Speaking of B-Bird, we have our main man in the middle, Big B. How are you doing, bro? And what could you say about what happened in the last day or so?
We're going there now.
Uh-huh.
Hi guys, hi everyone to our good friends watching and other people possibly viewing. Hello. Okay.
I guess Bieber, before we go, let's try to put some structure if we can. Now, I know we all picked the Lakers to win Game 3 in a way, based on what we saw the first couple of games. I mean, it's not like really a hot take if you think about it. But what do you make of this win by Miami? And do you think there's something to it? Do you think it affects our predictions before the series started? I'll start with you, Bert, and then we'll go to Val later.
Well, I don't think I can speak for me, but
Mhm.
I don't think it's gonna change my prediction of Lakers in 5. I think all of us kind of thought that it would go 5 games
Mhm.
because we felt like Miami might steal one. You even mentioned something about them just possibly outscoring the Lakers
Right.
or most of their shots falling or
Mhm.
out shooting the Lakers, to be specific. So I'm not that surprised. I don't think we're all that surprised. A bit maybe, but we're not shocked because
Mhm.
initially we thought that before the injuries, we thought that it was gonna go 6 or
Right.
five at the least. But with the injuries, we kind of teetered towards maybe it being a sweep,
Yeah.
especially after game 1. But with what we saw in game 2, we thought that there is a possibility that they would steal one game. And again, to your point, you thought that if it was gonna happen, it's definitely gonna be in game 3, which indeed it did. So I'm not that surprised. If there's one thing about it that might change something, it's the Heat's confidence. Because
Right.
I know that for the Lakers, they obviously could play much better. They know that they had a lot of mistakes. One very glaring factor was AD's foul trouble and how he was not able to get any type of rhythm going on, and how he ended up being a non-factor if you look at his numbers. And we always talked about how we expect to get something
Mhm.
stable from the both of them, like from
Right.
LeBron and AD, at least 50 plus points. But if you look at the stats again, AD only had 15 points. So because of all those factors, I feel like maybe it's more for the Heat to have more confidence.
Mhm.
However, I don't think it's going to affect the Lakers that much. That's why I still go with Lakers in the 5, because I know that LeBron will do his thing.
Okay.
He keeps himself even keel, even at this stage of the playoffs. So I know that they're gonna follow his lead, and I know that they're gonna shoot better, because if you look at the numbers, like what we always
Mhm.
mention, the only way that the Heat can win is if they outscore, and outshoot the Lakers, which
Right.
they were able to do, shooting 51% compared to the Lakers 42 something percent. So
Right.
there.
You're right about that, Biebert. The Lakers also were held down with their size. They always shoot over 50%. I'm not sure about game one. If I remember it correctly, they were a little bit below
But close to 50.
50%,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they were held to a little bit over 40, 42,
Yeah.
43% yesterday, which is a far cry from what they're capable of, especially with the size advantage that they have, and with Anthony Davis and LeBron getting to the nail for the most part, and those are high percentage shots. And LeBron did an amazing job, and we'll talk about LeBron later, because not only the on court stuff, I'm sure all of us saw how people are trying to make the most out of the little thing, which is LeBron walking off, which is, you know, I mean, it's really nothing, but people are trying to make something out of it, understandably, because there's nothing to talk about when it comes to criticizing his game. Even though there are a
Mm.
few things that he could have done better, but he was the only reason, in my opinion, and in everyone's opinion, if you watch the game, the reason why the Lakers were as close as they were, even if the Heat played an unbelievable game. So we'll get back to that later, Bert. So let's go to Val. Did it change your prediction at all, or are you changing your opinion about the series, if at all?
Prediction wise, I was predicting a sweep, so
Mm-hmm.
it's not gonna happen anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I still see the Lakers winning this series. As Bieber just jinxed everything. Like, first of all, he said that the Miami should have a strong start, which they did. They led the first part of the first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Then when the Lakers made a run from the first quarter to the second quarter, I thought that was it. This is going to be over. And as I mentioned before we went live, it just Jimmy Butler just happened.
Yeah.
Like, these are the times where you have this player when you play 5-on-5, and you have this player that does everything, and you certainly believe that if he's your teammate, he wouldn't let you lose the game, and
Yeah.
that's what happened. I didn't see any major adjustments. No,
Mhm.
in both sides, they
Right.
went to what worked for them, and the sponsor kept on just having the same defensive
Right.
scheme, which is to playing the zone. And again, just Jimmy Butler just happened.
Well, thank you for that, Val. But there's one thing that I would disagree with you on a little bit, and I understand why you felt that they still played some. But if you, I watched the game again earlier because we were supposed to go on live at 5 o'clock, and our schedule didn't allow us to. So I had to spare 1 hour to kind of take a look at some of the highlights of the game, and it did look like they were playing the zone, especially if you're LeBron or AD, because
Yes.
everyone was moving like on a string if the ball is moving. But if you really take a closer look at their formations, they were playing straight up man to man, but they were just doing one rule that I don't like doing. But since the Lakers are not knockdown shoot 3-point shooting team, they did a very good job of, which is helping one pass away. There were several circumstances and times where Anthony Davis and even LeBron, once they bring the ball down, in case of LeBron, and once Anthony Davis gets the ball
Quick
in the
double.
mid post, double, triple team, like they see arms and people
Mm.
all around. So it seemed like they were kind of cheating, doing a zone principle with
A
their man
zone.
to man, but they did it in a very disciplined way that it looked like a zone the entire time. I felt the same way the first time I saw the game live. It seemed like it was a zone. When I was watching it
Yes.
just an hour ago, man, it's not. It's straight up man to man with zone principle. So good job
And
on,
and when
on
the
yeah.
Lakers were making a run, boss, you would thought that here we go again. And
Yeah,
they didn't change. They didn't change the whole defensive scheme.
right.
They stick to it the whole game.
Just
And that's why I felt it was over when the Lakers made the first quarter run. The second quarter, I said this
Right.
isn't going to be over.
but to your point, guys, that's the thing. I mean, we talked about how they have to make certain adjustments commitment wise if one thing works out. The Lakers weren't shooting well because their three pointers weren't going in, so they didn't have to pressure the shooters that much, and they just
Yeah,
committed more on AD, which worked
AD.
for them because let's say the Lakers had this run compared similar to the first game in the first quarter where this they just shot the lights out. I'm sure they would have changed it dramatically and put more pressure on the shooters, but
Right.
less like a lesser percentage than the Heat. But the Lakers had a lot of attempts from three, but they missed most of them.
Right. I think we already talked about the defense, the adjustment that Miami made, and how disciplined they were. Are there any other things you guys think that the Miami Heat did well outside Butler's monster game that would make Heat fans think that they can win another game? And my follow up to that is, do you guys think that the Heat can win another game in this series? Bert, would you like to take it first?
Yeah, yeah, sure. Actually, what they did with AD worked, given that he had quick fouls, even if they were ticky tack fouls. Still, it worked. I feel like maybe Spo thinks that the moment AD gets the ball, he isolates a little too much at times, which we agree. But
Yeah.
of course, he can shoot. That's the problem. He can shoot. He's obviously well rounded. He has the size, the length. But if he takes a while to attack, they can double him. And he has that tendency to face basket first. What they did differently was they didn't gamble on him making his move or his first step. They doubled him right away.
Right.
And if you notice, it's kind of similar to, let's say, a Giannis who has a specific attack in mind when he gets
Right.
the ball, given the defense that's in front of him. But if it's a quick double and he hasn't done anything yet, he's the type of player who wants to contribute right away because he
Right.
knows that he's a factor. So he may force it at times, which didn't work for him, which worked for the Heat. So
Right.
I think Spo will probably stick with that, sacrifice on the shooters and just really double AD so that he can get any type of rhythm. But I don't think, I mean, the first 20 minutes of the game, he was just really
Right.
bad. But I don't think that's going to happen
Right.
again. But
Yeah.
I think they're going to stick with that. But the moment he has a couple of moves that works and he makes kick out passes and they start making their shots, they're going to have to change it up a little bit.
Right. Val, what do you think about what the Heat can do, and do you think they can win another game?
Well, if another Jimmy Butler saga would happen, I think so. But as what Bieber said, I think it's just a one-time off thing. The Lakers still gonna win the series. It's not a matter of when, but how many, like what, how many games left. So I'm still hoping. I'm still hoping something miraculous will happen. They said that Bam will be considered for the next game. They're still tight-lipped in terms of the updates of
Right.
his injury.
Right.
But
Sorry. Go on. Sorry.
yeah, no, that's it, boss. The
Right.
even if Bam will come back, I don't think that he would change the complexion of the series.
Uh,
Probably, I when OKC had Serge Ibaka come back from a major
Right.
injury and it lifted their spirits, but I don't think it would really matter.
This is what I want to talk about is something adjacent to the Bam Adebayo thing. One thing that I was super duper wrong about, and I made fun of this guy in episode one, is the guy named Kelly Olynyk. When,
Olenek,
when,
yes,
when
I
I
knew,
said
I knew.
when I said that I don't think they should play Kelly Olynyk because he's going to get destroyed by the Lakers, and even though is very skilled, I didn't think that he had the ability to finish and to create with the length of the Lakers and the size of the Lakers. So he proved me wrong. Of course, he cannot finish with the ferocity and the strength and the
Mhm.
explosiveness of Bam. But what he
But he can
does
shoot the
give there,
three.
Yeah,
he
exactly.
can shoot, and he can make the defense move and freeze. Um,
Exactly.
and that's all it takes. Like this team is, although the numbers doesn't show it, they're a knock. down shooting team to the point where even if they're not making their shots, the
You have to
opportunities that
guard
they
everyone.
create
Yes.
extends, stretches, and stresses out the defense of the Lakers. And I would like to before I get back to one of you guys. One thing I think that the Miami Heat did a very good job of. It doesn't really show because their output as far as rebounding offensively and defensively hardly changed, but they were able to really decrease the number of rebounds that the Lakers were making in each and every game. So the Lakers in game one had 54 rebounds, and game two they had 44, and in game three they're only 43. So they're still rebounding more than the Heat, but the Heat are starting to gain some headway there. The Heat rebounded exactly the same, 36, 37, and 37. I never look at this, but I just saw something. It's the hustle stats. It's you can find it in NBA.com. I don't know how they qualify this, but for box outs, Miami for the last game had 18 box outs, and the Lakers only seven. All right. Loose balls recovered. LA had three, Miami six. So from a hustle stat standpoint,
Yeah.
last game, the Heat won that. Do you guys think that this is something that will continue, or what type of adjustments will the Lakers most likely do? And Biebert already started and alluded to it that they will make adjustments. Do you guys think there are specific adjustments that you're seeing that they will do? Bert?
Before I answer that question, I'd like to go back to what you mentioned about Kelly Olynyk and the defense that the defense problems that he creates. Because again, it doesn't matter if he is not that big size wise, matching up with Dwight and AD, because he can shoot the three. So if you have a guy
Yeah.
who can shoot the three, you have to let someone else guard him when he's standing there. It's not like Dwight or AD can go all the way out there. That's
Yeah.
why he creates some matchup problems. And the thing about him and Bam too is they both present different problems. So you
Right.
have to adjust your rotation when it comes to
Mm,
guarding them individually and as a team. So that's why he can create some problems.
right.
So as far as defensive adjustments and out hustling the Lakers, I have to also mention Davis's and Howard's minutes because obviously with
Yeah.
Davis's foul trouble, he only played I think 29 minutes last game when
Yeah.
he averages close to 40 minutes. So
40 minutes.
that's big. Dwight Howard also averages 17. He played I think 14 minutes. So I'm sure that's a little factor. And just like what Jimmy always tells the media, they're dogs and they will always try their best to outplay the Lakers, which is probably the only thing that will help them win the game. So I expect the same effort from them, but I don't think they'll be as successful if you look at the stats if AD is going to be playing for a lot of minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He
Good.
just took
Good
nine
point.
shots, Bieber.
Yeah.
Yeah, nine
But
shots, which
I,
is like
I'll,
11,
I'll
11 less than what he's averaging.
I'll play
It's just
devil's
his minutes.
advocate about that, Val.
Yeah.
How much would you attribute that to the defense, and how much would you attribute to the Lakers' inability to adjust?
I think that as what Bieber mentioned, the foul trouble cost the Lakers some problems with their rotation. You know, the minutes that usually the top players are playing. Yeah, the composition of the five players who are on the floor, it really affected them.
Right.
Though LeBron would always be there,
Yeah.
but it's still different. He's now in the point where he knows when he needs to dominate the game and when to just ask his teammates to carry over whichever side of the
Right.
ball they are, like offensively and defensively. Unlike before that, where you could see it's 100%
Yeah.
both sides of the court. Now he understands the game. Again, he always I remember Kobe would always say it's a game of runs. You
Right.
know when you need to exert effort, more effort than other
Yeah,
you don't always go Russell Westbrook 100%.
that's true. Good
Yeah.
thing you brought that name back.
But
But
if you think about it, if you really think about it, it took a monster game from Butler, them out shooting the Lakers, AD in foul trouble, all those things for them to win. And the final score isn't indicative
indicative.
of what really happened.
Yeah.
Because again, we the game was tied with like 5 minutes left. Jimmy just had a great night. So
Right.
it for all those
It's
things to
way
happen and just to them for them to just win enough, that's the reason why we cannot see them winning another game, or we'll be shocked this time if they win another game.
Yeah,
Right.
but it wasn't indicative of how, again, for the past two games that the Lakers won, they scored an average of 120 points. It's 116 and 124. Now
Yeah,
they just scored 104.
104.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So if you take into account what Davis's would always produce, which is
Output
around, yeah,
close to
he's
30
averaging
or 30.
30, and he just
Yeah,
scored 15 points.
15.
That, yeah,
Right.
that
Well,
would have covered the deficit.
right.
Exactly.
I guess that's where my me playing devil's advocate would go, because I would like to say, if I was a Heat fan, I would attribute that to the defensive adjustments, because if you take a look at how, and we would never talk about him, but Jay Crowder did an admirable job of making
Yeah.
AD uncomfortable the entire time, and he also did a good job because usually AD could just walk any team, almost any team, down with his size and his skill and his ability to shoot. But uh, Crowder didn't allow him to go to his spots in a very comfortable way, and he did a very good job. And this is something I want you guys to take a look at in the next game that he does a very good job of. He's forcing AD to where the help for that specific possession
That was
is
coming
coming
from.
from,
Yep.
and AD turned into the defense more than 3 or 4 times the entire game. And also, Val, you mentioned it's a game of runs. The reason why I believe, part of the reason, there are a lot of reasons the Heat won the game yesterday, was it was a game of runs. They had 3 unbelievable runs. In the second quarter, there was an 11-0 run in the middle of the second. For me, at that point in time, it kind of foreshadowed their ability to do that. And I felt that they could do that. And they did it again in the third. There was an 11-0 run in the and 10-0 run or 11-0 run in the third, where they led by 14. I think that was the biggest
Yeah,
lead
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
game. And when the Lakers led by 2, remember after LeBron gave Morris a couple of 3-pointers in the corner, and there was a Rondo layup, and they were up by 2. I felt that the Lakers would take over at that point, and the Heat came with a huge run of their own, and that they never looked back
with
after
with
that.
Butler seven straight
Yes,
points, I think. But
and yeah, and again, it's a great game by Jimmy Butler, but I feel like they have one more game in them. That's what I feel like. The Lakers, I have to give credit to the Lakers, because remember I said that if they win, it's going to be about the shooting of the Miami Heat. That hasn't happened. It's not because the Heat can't shoot. It's not because the Heat are cold. It's because the Lakers are playing such a good defense outside that they're rushing the shots that they would normally take in in stride. So I think that contributes to the Heat shooting a little bit below where they're used to. It's not really. I wouldn't really say that it's the size of the Lakers that creates their shooting percentage drop in the 3-point area, because I mean Dwight, AD, just like what you said, Biebert earlier, they're gamers, but they cannot chase people off screens and back screens
Kelly
all
Olynyk,
all night long. So now
his
that
his his numbers say a lot, man. I think he averages like close to 4 3-pointers in the past 2 games.
I think so, yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. Let me take a look at that.
he
Like
gave he gave you
Uh,
17 game 3. Olenek gave you
three
17 in
three
game 3,
pointers.
yeah,
No,
24
that's
in
in
game
game
2.
17
2.
and 7.
True. So
Yeah.
he's a difference maker. He stretches the defense so well. Um,
He's shooting 3 out of 5 3 points.
Yeah, I know.
60%.
Unbelievable. Another site for the Heat that they are really uh, trying to take advantage of, I believe, is Danny Green. He has been a stinker in the last couple of games, guys. Yes.
Man, that guy,
I don't know
man.
what to do. I think I'm seeing
No,
the shades of Danny Green 2 years ago, where he was starting for Toronto, and all of a sudden, because of his dip in play, Fred Van Vliet
Yes.
slowly
yep,
took over and
Oh,
never
yep,
looked back.
yep.
yeah.
I think I'm seeing that again. What do you guys think of Danny Green right now?
I'll go first. Danny Green is clearly one of those players who trusts his shooting in his confidence of making the shot. If he feels like he's not shooting the lights out or he's not as confident, he's just gonna stink. Because those are his shots. But for me, the most telling thing about him not having confidence is the way he fakes and decides to drive, fakes, decides to pass. It happens so many times. And these are the shots that
He would
he
do some
makes,
next.
the shots that he prefers. Like one where he's about to make a fake, but the guy doesn't close out on him and he just jacks it up. But he
Right,
fakes even if the guy doesn't come close enough. He still decides to just fake and pass or fake and cut or fake and
right.
slash. But he's not as confident. I
I-
mean,
Yeah.
the thing that's really very glaring about his confidence is his first two shots. If he
Mhm.
misses his first two shots and they're open shots, you can expect him to have a difficult night. But in game one, where he missed one shot and then he made the second one, he started because he's a streaky shooter now. He's
Right.
no longer that type of shooter that you would
Mhm.
consider a very good shooter. So we'll see. We'll
Okay.
see.
All right, Val, what's your take on the Danny Green situation of the Lakers?
0 out of 6, boss. That's all I
Ah,
could say. 0 out of 6.
okay, I'll stretch that even further, Val. For the last two games, after a stellar game one, I mean, he
Hmm.
was a killer in
What?
game one. The last two games,
One
from the
out
three
of
point line, one
like
out of 12,
14.
one
Oh,
out of
one out of
12
14.
for
Yeah,
eight
I think
freaking
he was.
percent.
Yeah, yeah. He was
So
1 out of 8. The yeah, it's 12. He was
So
zero
they,
out
they
of
could
4.
afford to double AD.
exactly.
Yeah. But he hasn't been. But in the regular season, he was a shooting like above 34 or 34.
Yeah. Well,
But
I
I don't
mean,
know what happened.
But
I'm
it's
not.
I
just
don't know what happened in
yeah, it's
bubble.
it's really different because you can see him wide open. Like
Yeah.
those things that surprise you if they miss it because they're so wide open and it's their shot that's been happening to him.
Right. If not for Morris and some of
Yep.
Kuzma's timely three pointers,
Kuzma.
the, the Lakers should have
have
been in
you
trouble.
have you
Well, okay,
seen the have you
I don't
seen
know if you guys see the tweet that I sent out while the game was happening, because I retweeted what Shannon Sharp mentioned, because I was thinking of the same thing. I wanted to
uh,
whack Kuzma over the head. Does this guy ever not fall for every shot fake ever? Because the Heat are so good. I understand the Heat's very good perimeter wise, but if you bite on every shot fake, you compromise the ability of the defense to adjust. And they're too fast. They're too good. They look for the open guy all the time. It just makes it difficult for the Lakers to stay in front of people. What do you guys think of Kyle Kuzma and Morris, how they played the last couple games?
I like Morris because
I like Morris
he's
better.
confident. He's confident.
Yeah.
He's the opposite
Yes.
of Danny Green. He's like,
Yes.
I don't care. This is my shot.
Right,
With Danny Green,
Yes.
you can just see it when he catches the ball. He's like second guessing already.
right.
Mm.
But the moment he makes a couple of shots, he's gonna make a lot of them. But again, the first few shots will dictate his night. With Morris, he doesn't care.
How about Kuzma, fellas? Kuzma, what's your take?
Kuzma,
He
there's a
scored.
fan page. There's a fan page that are having a survey if they're wishing that if the Lakers win, Kuzma should not get a ring, and it's it has numbers, boss. It
Oh,
has number. Right?
that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. But
Yeah,
He does enough. He does enough.
you know,
yeah.
He does enough, but it's just unfortunate because everyone was hoping for him to be the third guy. But
Third, yeah.
obviously, we can see that it's Rondo now.
right.
But he does enough because he's a bit better now on defense compared to how he was before.
I think with Kuzma, you can still see it yung giggle.
Yeah.
But until now, you can see
The
that
effort is
parang
there.
nagigigil siya.
Yeah, to your point,
No,
that's a problem. Like overly giggle that he bites on every shot fake.
Right.
yeah, no, it's the same thing that happened with Chris Boss. Like
I
he was,
think I don't
if
think
you're
because
third guy, yeah,
with
if the
Bosch, I
third
think
option,
it was more just he's just getting used to it and picking his spots. With Kuzma, it's nerves.
Yeah, because with Bosch, he became something that he's not used to, like a spot up
yeah,
shooter,
so sure,
shooting
yeah,
threes. Because his touches were very limited with
yeah,
LeBron
exactly.
and Wade. Guys, I want to talk about one thing because we kept talking about Butler and his great night.
Mm,
The thing that really got me was his percentage. He shot 70%.
yeah.
His field goal was 14 out of 20, and he had zero 3-point attempts,
Hundred attempts.
which really tells you that he was aggressive the whole night, and his
Right.
mindset was just to attack, attack, attack,
Attack.
and then everyone follow his lead. Now, here's the problem. What if Bam does come back? You adjust your
Honest,
rotation, and he's gonna have lesser touches. Trust me, if
right.
you look at the numbers all throughout the playoffs, he's playing 10 more minutes without Bam. Well, in the
Right.
past two games, he has a lot more touches. Now that he's very effective, what's going to happen in your offense? Because I don't think you're just going to rely on him the whole night if Bam's there. So that could be a double-edged sword for them if you think about it.
I think it could be, and I really do think that no matter how good Bam is, now mind you, the Heat offense is not like any other team's offense. They really thrive on moving the ball and not one guy dominating the ball. It's actually the first time I've seen Jimmy Butler since one game in the conference finals where he was very intentional in taking over the game. Now, with Bam coming in, I think it's twofold. They could potentially become better because just more options and the ability for you to rest people. But they have developed a certain type of rotation groove minutes with the current players in the rotation right now, and that might be nothing. You cannot quantify that, but that might upset the dynamics of the team.
Yeah.
We're the team that,
Hmm.
like the Lakers, a little bit of hesitation, a little bit of adjustment, they're going to pounce on you. Next thing you know, you take a look at the scoreboard and they're
Each
up by
one is
25. So I think that's what's going to happen if Bam comes back. For the Heat fans, I know that from a sentimental standpoint, you want one of your best players to come back, if not the best player.
On
But
paper
it's hard.
standpoint, they should be better with him. But yeah,
Yeah, Val, what do you think? It's a good thing
Well,
that Bieber threw
yeah,
that at us.
yeah, but it's always the case, boss. Like when we have a good matchup and one of the major players gets injured and he comes back, we have seen this story over and over again in the playoff. If you're not 100%, you're just costing your team, the momentum that they have.
Right.
If he can't commit to the old Bam that we have seen in the playoff, then it is better for him to just rest the whole series. And because again, the Miami Heat at the moment have I think from their standpoint, they have
Mhm.
seen that they can win, and they know what to do, and they have seen some gaps in the offense. But if Bam comes back, it's going to be an entirely different offensive scheme again, because you have to give Bam some touches, especially if your big man is always giving you the hard picks, because that seems to be their bread and butter before when the Dragic was
Right.
still playing.
Right.
So yeah, you have to respect, and but it's also going to be an adjustment with the Lakers though, because again, you have an inside presence at the
Right.
moment, and
Which
I don't. But I don't
which is
think
not going to be a
they're
problem.
not. I don't think they're not gonna play him if he says he's ready. Because
Yeah.
yeah, he's a perennial all star if you ask me. So
Right.
it's impossible for them not to play him if he's 100% or he says he's 100% because he's young, and he's a dog too. It's very
yes,
similar to saying something like, "We won Game 3 without Giannis in the second half, so if he's not 100%, we're not gonna play him in the next game."
Right. Right.
Right? You're definitely
Right.
gonna play him if he says he's ready.
So with that being said, like I would like to ask for your predictions for Game Four, and you can qualify your predictions however you want to do it, because we don't know if Bam's gonna play. So if you want to qualify it, if Bam plays, my prediction is this. If Bam doesn't play, this is my prediction. You can do however you want to do it. So let's start with you, Val. What's your prediction for Game Four?
It's going to be a bounce back game for AD. Definitely, I expect the Lakers to go to him, give him some early touches, get his rhythm. I expect him to shoot more than, like, again, as we highlighted before, he just shot nine field goal attempts. So I see him dominating, scoring at least again 30 points, and LeBron, with the heat that he got from what he did when he walked out, because again, as Bieber said, the only thing that was wrong is he forgot that he was LeBron. It's LeBron James, so it's going to be an issue. So it's going to be a bounce back game for both these All-Stars, and I don't think there's anything that the Miami Heat can do to stop them from dominating, because they have shown that if they really show the effort, they could just dominate the game. And it's a far cry from what they're averaging. Both of them are averaging at least like 60 points a game, and they just scored like 40. So it's 20 points below what they're scoring at the moment.
Right.
So that's my prediction. Both LeBron James and AD will be dominating Game 4.
And what does that look like? I'm looking for that. What does it look like? Is it Lakers by how many? What does that
yes,
look like for you?
it's gonna be Lakers. The odds is 8.5 as I see here. Bieber, is it correct? 8.5. So I think they could cover the spread again.
All right, Bieber, prediction.
Mine's just a little bit different. For me, it doesn't matter if Bam plays or he doesn't play. I don't think it's going to be a very big factor because, again, let's say Jimmy has lesser touches. I'm sure Bam can make up for that too. Now, for predictions, I honestly feel like LeBron will play better than he did. More than AD is actually gonna bounce back, because I feel like they're gonna do a lot of double teams on AD, and even if he's gonna play better, obviously his numbers will be better. I don't think he's gonna get 30 points. I think he's gonna get close to 30, maybe 25 something, because they're gonna double him a lot, but he's obviously gonna play better. I think with LeBron, he knows that he can control his attacks more, especially towards the end, because it felt like he forced a few of them. That's because they were down, especially with how he plays after certain incidents, like the walkout incident or the incident where allegedly Butler told him that you guys are in trouble. And you know how LeBron reacts to those things. He's going to be more controlled. He's still going to be on attack mode with lesser turnovers. So I feel like they're going to start strong. I feel like most likely at the half, they'll be up close to double digits or maybe 12 points, somewhere there. But I think the Heat will do enough to keep it a little bit close. I feel like it's going to be similar to Game 2, where the Lakers were up maybe 10 at the half. And the Heat will start making the shots. Jimmy and Bam will be factors. So they could kind of keep the game close to maybe around 8-12 for the most part. And I'm gonna be a conspiracy theorist again. And
oh, come on, Ebert.
The Lakers will win. The Lakers will win. The Lakers will win. I just feel like it's gonna be around 8 to 10 points. So I'm not gonna be surprised if they all of a sudden don't cover it in the dying minutes, but they'll be ahead by a comfortable enough margin. I'm just saying the Lakers will definitely win.
So let's
I cannot see.
Let's put it this way.
The Heat upsetting them.
Your prediction is it's going to be a pretty close game from a score standpoint, but the score is not indicative of how the Lakers are controlling the game.
Yeah, very similar to Game 2. Okay. Again, very similar to Game 2, because you know how after the game they were up 10, right?
Right.
And the people probably thought that it was closer than it was.
Right.
But for the most part, in the fourth quarter, their lead was around like 14, 15. So they were never really threatened. So I feel like it's going to be like that. So yeah.
Okay. it's crazy that you mentioned that LeBron could do better, but there's what we tend to
from a
not to
turnover
ignore because
standpoint.
we're so used to his greatness that he actually had 25, 10 and 8 at 56% shooting, and we're talking about him getting better. But I understand where you're coming from because
Eight turnovers. The eight
right,
turnovers,
Yeah,
that's
turn
big.
chairs and overs.
right,
They averaged 9 in the first two games, and he had
right.
8 in game three. So
And
that's a
Yeah.
lot.
it's kind of like front loaded too. He had a lot of turnovers early on, but of course, what people will remember would be the last couple that he made
Traveled.
late in the game. So
Look,
Yeah.
look, look. I'm just gonna be blunt about it since I've seen this so many times. Those are things that he does a lot that they never call. All of a sudden, they
right,
called two
right,
straight travels on him.
Doubles. Yep.
yeah.
Really
Another
now?
conspiracy
To to
theory by Bieber.
to cut any type of momentum to let them win the game. You could see
All
his
right,
reaction to that offensive foul on AD, like how they would just smile after that smirk that you would see on their faces. Like
all right.
can't help but.
I'm not gonna go that far, Bert. I'm not gonna go that far, but I understand where you're coming from. But I agree with both of you. I think the Lakers are gonna win. I think the Heat, just like what they did today, would have some very good runs. This would be a much closer game than I think I initially expected before the start of the series because, like it or not, I think the Heat found something, and they're very confident. Just like what Biebert said, this team is the Heat team. They're dogs. They are going to fight and they're going to execute very well, and I would always give him a chance. But Anthony Davis is so smart for him to fall into this trap once more. He's not pleased about it. Of course, the last day or so, I'm sure he's looking at film and thinking about how he could have done things better. And believe me, he will
He
do
will.
better in
Yeah.
the next game. And I agree with both of you that that's going to happen. Um, one thing, though, that I have mixed feelings about because I like Morris a lot on the floor too is I feel like Dwight Howard should be there more. I
More.
don't think the stat line would reflect it, but the type of attention that he garners, especially on the offensive glass, allows Anthony Davis to get more rebounds. Dwight could come in, have 4 fouls, 3 rebounds, and that's it. But I feel like with him on the floor, they could do better. The thing is, Vogel is very strict with his rotation that at this point, I will remove my center for a Kuzma or a Morris, which I think did not work well for Dwight because he was, I think, a minus 15 or something the last game, which isn't fair. If you take a look at where he was, that's when
The
the
Miami
Heat were
mid run.
making their run, and you can look at it
Yes.
two ways. You can look at it that he's the cause of the run of the Heat, but I still do believe that he has some weight as far as attracting attention is concerned down low. That it also gives the Lakers an opportunity for skip passes because
Yeah.
he's there. People will tend to want to focus on because they don't want to get dunked over their heads by Dwight Howard. So my prediction is going to be that I think the Lakers is going pretty much going to cover the spread, but it's going to be close, specifically in the second half. I think we will see more of what we have already seen the first couple of games, where one team will get hot in the first half and the other would make it closer by mid third quarter. So those are our predictions.
You guys want to hear one more conspiracy theory that you
Go
might want to
ahead,
think about?
by all means, Bert. That's where we get our conspiracy theories from you.
Name one surefire thing the NBA could do to ensure that LeBron wins the Finals MVP.
Name one thing I know the NBA will do for sure, so LeBron wins Finals MVP.
Game three. If they win now, is it ever going to be a question who the Finals MVP is after what Davis showed?
No, no. See,
Think
this is
about it.
something I would never think about, Bert.
Think about
These
it.
things,
Look at
I
this.
would never think
Look at
about.
his numbers because they were neck and neck after game two. But
Right.
if you have that stat line, how are you going to do that? Control his fouls, make sure he doesn't play enough, and he has those numbers. So
Ah,
now, who's the front runner in Finals MVP? LeBron James. Who's
AD.
gonna be the only guy who wins 3 championships in
oh
3 different
man.
franchises with 3 Finals MVPs? Not Kawhi, LeBron James.
We'll see how this turns out after Game 4 because I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, but yeah, that's another story on there I never really thought about, like the whole how Finals MVP with how many teams, because I was like really just tunnel vision on
Lakers winning the championship.
yeah, Lakers winning
Yep.
a championship and LeBron chasing MJ for the number of rings. But that's a very good thing too. I never thought about that. So with that being said, before we close, final thoughts from you guys. Val, final thoughts?
Well, I just want this series to be over with because again,
So we can
this
talk about the
Sunday.
PBA bubble.
Yeah, I know, right?
October 11th, PBA happening.
Yeah,
So
exactly. First game will be the NLEX Road Warriors versus the Barangay Ginebra Gen Kings.
Arangada
And
and Lex.
yes, Arangkada NLEX. I miss Yang Yao, honestly. I've always been watching the replays of Yang Yao led Gila's team.
oh,
Not the World Cup team, but the Asian
all
Games
right,
team,
I got it.
which is really fun. And again, before we started this one, I truly believe that the Lakers would win.
Okay.
So this is a mismatch. So I want this one to be over with Friday, so that by Saturday, once we talked about it, we could now move forward with the PBA bubble
All right.
and other sporting events. We have a lot of things to talk about. The PBA. They're considering additional fellow American applicants for the draft because
Right.
now they won't be required to play in the league. So that's going to be fun.
I'm a little bit apathetic towards that, but we can talk about it. We can talk about it.
But you could see the potential of rookies that are coming in if they
I
waive
could.
out.
But
It's
again,
gonna
we'll
be
talk about it.
crazy.
We'll talk about it some other time. It's just that there's only so many teams to go around, and we all know how the power play works over there. So
Yeah, and
we'll
the
see.
crazy.
Let's talk
We'll
about
also
the
talk about the
WNBA.
crazy recruitment battles with
In
the
the
collegiate
UAAP.
teams.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm.
You know what,
So-
Biebert? Thank you, by the way, for your take, Val, and for your excitement with the PBA bubble. We'll definitely get there in the next couple of days. But Biebert, since you mentioned the WNBA, I downloaded the game the other day. I haven't gotten to it. I'm gonna watch it, and then probably in the next game we could talk about the WNBA finals.
Definitely.
I consider this series similar to the Lakers and the Heat mismatch wise because the Storm with Brianna back
No, it's
Mhm.
playing like a beast with those numbers.
Right.
However, I feel like they're gonna do a Lakers and lose Game 3 on purpose. I don't know. That's just me.
We'll see what happens, and we'll definitely
Hey,
talk
Bieber.
about that.
Yeah.
Bieber,
Yo.
did the Cowboys lose this weekend, right?
Yep, they did.
Yeah, they
To
did.
the Browns.
The Cleveland Browns.
Browns.
All right.
Cleveland
So,
Browns.
Biebert,
Yo,
final take before we go.
I just hope that it's gonna be a bit close towards the end where people will still at least watch it, unlike the first game when it was just it got down to like 30 or got up to 30.
Yeah,
The league got up to 30 and people never really wanted to watch it anymore.
Right.
I just hope it's gonna be similar to game 2 where you still have that sense that they could make a run and they could probably still
competitive.
do something. Yeah,
Right.
just that.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And that's a wrap for episode 3 of Hoops Locale podcast. For more, check out hoopslocale.com for more basketball content for NBA, PBA, or FIBA. You can also like our page on Facebook at hoopslocale.com. And if you haven't already, watch out for us. We will also be on Spotify and iTunes and YouTube soon. So once again, my name is Bong, and whoever you are, if you love the game of basketball, you have a home here at hoopslocale.com. Thank you, everyone, and have a good evening. Bye.
Just
for now,
keep safe,
fellas.
everyone.
Bye, everyone.